Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 18th, a little after 9 p.m. Eastern. That means it is time for Under the Radar. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. Got David Griggs below me, David Dorman to my side, a little three-man weave tonight. And this is the Under the Radar podcast where we discuss all the
You know,
teams that we did not discuss Monday night in the Hoops HD report.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
the simple
last night
definition.
we had what was it? Two games of top 15 matchups. We're not discussing any of that tonight.
No. These are the teams that although generally only get one bid, they definitely could get more than one bid to the NCAA tournament. They are not the Power Five conferences, which is the ACC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, Pac-12, the SEC. It's not the American, the Mountain West, the West Coast Conference that we consider to be multi-bid leagues. It
Or the
does
Big
include the
East.
Atlantic or the Big East.
Yeah.
It does include the Atlantic 10 this year because we relegated them down because of how bad they were doing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Never
also not
been done
include
before.
not for the A10. We did to the Mountain West one year, but not for
Oh
the
yeah, we
A10.
did. Okay, it
Yeah.
has been done before. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it also does include anybody that's currently does not include anybody that's currently in the top 25 of the polls. We did discuss both Florida Atlantic and College of Charleston on Monday night, but we will touch on both the Colonial and Conference USA during the course of tonight's show at least. Did I get everything right there?
Yeah, I think that's a good intro, and I guess we got 21 leagues to get through, plus some mythical ones.
There's some
So
mythical ones. Yeah, we got a lot to
yeah,
get to.
right.
23 leagues, I think, to get through, right?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I don't know
Big
how many
night.
there are.
Yeah, it is 23. I forgot about because we have a feature one and then we have 22 more.
Yeah, feature one. We do like good point here. We do like to start things out with a feature league. And I was actually, I have a little list I keep of which conferences we feature because we don't want to do repeats during the course of the season if we can avoid it. And when I was going through my list, I was surprised we hadn't featured this conference yet this season. And then when I looked at the standings, I said, how can we not be featuring this conference this season? Uh, so let me pull it up right here. And I think it's time to feature the Missouri Valley Conference,
Yeah.
especially in light of the fact that there are now two games separating first place and eighth place, which is ridiculous. This is, I mean, and it was only one game yesterday. Murray State's loss actually dropped them out of the eight-way tie within one game. So I don't even know where to start with this league because right now I think any of these eight, maybe any of these 12 teams can win this conference. So Dorman, what do you
Right.
think? Thoughts on this conference?
Yeah. I'm glad you picked actually the Valley because I got some teams that are starting to play the way I really thought they would all year. Drake had some chances out of conference early in the year. They brought back almost every big piece of last year's team, and it just wasn't clicking in the out of conference early in November, December. But they seem to have found what they're doing. They're playing good basketball. They were on national TV, I want to say, against Missouri State over the weekend, and just ran them out of the gym. They're really playing good ball. Drake could win this conference coming in, but they've got some real big players. Southern Illinois was one of my teams coming in to watch in the Valley. Southern Illinois has not disappointed. Southern Illinois is 7-2 in the conference and off to a really good start. Like you said, Chad, but it's deep. Bradley's playing good ball. They went to Indiana State tonight and got a victory. Belmont struggled in the early non-conference, new conference for them, the Missouri Valley, coming over from the Ohio Valley, but they've done real well, off to a 7-2 start also. Indiana State, who I thought was at the bottom of the league, off to a good start as well. So I agree with you, Chad. This is going to be a great conference tournament come March. A lot of teams can win it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, Indiana State with the loss tonight at home against Bradley. That was a bit of was a bit of a surprise. Although Bradley's
That
a good
I
team.
was surprised.
Uh, eh,
And I submitted my top 25 before, or my under the radar top 10 before that game, so I was surprised, Chad. Um, one of the things we have to mention about this league is that it's collectively underperformed in the out of conference. This is a league that, of all the under the radar leagues, it's arguably consistently the most successful.
Yeah.
It seems like more often than not, their first place team is inside the bubble. Sometimes we've seen multiple teams, and to not see anyone anywhere close to it this year is a bit of a down year. But I guess, like, for the overall health of the conference, it is sort of a compliment to call a year where you don't have a team inside the bubble a down year. I was really big on Drake coming into the year. I thought they would be in the top 25 at some point during the season. I think we talked about that in the early season podcast. Like, I thought it would be them, not necessarily College Charleston, and certainly not Florida Atlantic. I agree with Southern Illinois, an excellent defensive team that's done really well, and they've really got my attention, especially with the Trees losing tonight to
Yeah, the Trees last
Bradley.
night. Another quick note here as we record this, actually, Drake is playing right now at home against Missouri State, which is one of these other 8 teams, and they're blowing them out right now. So that is
Yeah,
that's good news for Drake fans right now
yeah,
as we record this. But this conference now up to 12 teams, so Arch Madness is now all 12 teams will be in it. Means makes it even more interesting because in past years it was just make one of those top 6 seeds to avoid the first round game, which was normally not that hard. Now you got to make one of those top 4. It means
yeah.
4 of these 8 teams here, or at least 4 of these 7, if you want to say Murray State's not in the mix. They've had some off court issues in the lake. But if you want to say
Well,
4 of
they'll
those
be
top
okay.
7, 3 of those top 7 are going to have to play opening round games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yes, it might be against UIC or Evansville, but one of them's going to have to play a Valpo, who's won a couple games in a row. Now they just won at Evansville, which is not that
Yeah.
hard to do. But
I
that's a
did
road
want to
game at
say
least.
UIC is exceeding my expectations.
Okay. They do have that one conference, which is probably
Yeah.
over Evansville. I don't actually have their schedule in front of me, but that's probably what it was. But yeah, so I guess finishing 5th or 6th is just going to be a little bit tired, but 7th or 8th, you're going to have a tough game in the first round, I think. So,
Yeah.
uh,
What a log jam. My God.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's going to be fun the rest of the way in this league here. You look at the upcoming games here, Saturday's games. Southern Illinois is at Missouri State. Drake is at, well, they're at Evansville, but then they're going to be hosting Indiana State on Tuesday. So circle that one at least.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of good games here, and a lot of these teams have to play each other because there's so many of them here. Belmont at Bradley on Saturday, lots of good games. Belmont really kind of exceeding expectations this year. Also, I think we'd be remiss if we don't discuss them.
Yeah, they really are. Especially once conference play started. Belmont in the OVC was a team that sort of flirted with the bubble. They did get inside to it. Most people kind of remember or forget that, but they were selected as an at-large. I want to say, was it 19? Yeah, I think it was 2008.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was a 19. Yes, I believe. You're
Yeah.
right.
And the following year, they were routinely winning 25 games a year. So when they sort of limped through out of conference play, you kind of forgot about them a little bit. But 7-2 in a pretty good Valley. Yeah, you do need to mention that. And they had they beat Murray State rather handily last night.
Right, and again, interesting game Saturday. Big game, probably the game of the week in the conference is maybe them at Bradley on Saturday.
Yeah.
Then they get a bye week as they go to Evansville on Wednesday.
Tuesday night in the state at Drake. Tuesday night should be a great
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. Oh, there's another really good one. Yeah, there are. Like I said, there's a lot of good games on this schedule here.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and go through the rest of the league. So we do them in alphabetical order. We'll start things off in the America East, where tonight, huge game tonight is UMBC, who had been red hot coming into this game, goes to Lowell, but Lowell is able to find a way to win the game. But are these standings correct? Am I reading correctly that following Binghamton's upset Saturday over Lowell, Binghamton now in sole possession of first place in the standings? I don't think I've said that in 20 years.
It just looks funny that they got a 320 net in Binghamton all the way up there. They have been doing an NCAA tournament before. It seems like it was eons ago.
Yeah, and then the
but
program
they got just crushed with sanctions and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. They cheated their way to a NCAA tournament before, absolutely.
Yeah. And now they're back in first place, although sort of.
It's been a quirk of the schedule combined with the upset, with the huge
Yeah.
upset over. They did pull over Lowell again. Lowell bouncing back tonight, but
Yeah.
I don't expect. I expect Binghamton may only win 5 games in conference all season. They may have 3 of them already. So
Right. Yeah.
I'll tell you what looks weird. Vermont has 2 conference losses already. When do you see Vermont sitting 6th in the America East? I know it's early, but Vermont has dominated the American East
Yeah,
for
they
a
have.
long time. And I thought Bryant coming in would be a team that could give them a run for their money, and they are. And just seeing Vermont though sitting there 2-2 in the conference is just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, this Bryant had the big win at Syracuse earlier this year,
Yep.
so this is a team that you've got to keep an eye on. And I think just looking at the upcoming schedule there, Sunday, Bryant at Lowell's. I think that's the game to circle in this conference.
Yeah,
Right.
for
Although
sure.
Vermont has to go to Binghamton next Wednesday, and
Yeah.
Lowell
Yeah,
just lost at Binghamton, so who
yeah,
knows?
yeah.
Uh, Going over Dorman to the Ace Sun. We now have a four-way tie for first place here. Another
Look at
conference with a
that.
huge log jam. Liberty, we expected to be there. The other three, I don't think we did.
And not at all. I did not see Kennesaw State, Stetson, or Eastern Kentucky being here at this point, but they've deserved it. These teams are for real, and they're separating themselves. I thought coming into the season, Florida Gulf Coast would be part of that top four. They're off to a rocky 500 start. Queens and Bellarmine, again, not available, not yet in D1 in the conference yet to be taken to the NCAA tournament. But if I had to pick someone, I still like Liberty as of right now, but Eastern Kentucky is really good. I like those two teams. And this is going to be a battle in the Ace Sun in the middle there, where a lot of 3-3s. And like Chad said, the top of the conference strong.
Yeah, I still think Liberty is going to break away from the pack. I don't know if Kennesaw or Stetson, it was certainly not Kennesaw, but probably not Stetson either, can keep pace as we go through league play. But I've been saying that all year.
Yeah,
Liberty has been a little. I think we thought Liberty might flirt with the bubble. They're certainly not going to do that. At least I don't think. Maybe if they went out, they'll get a look. But I don't know. What do you think, Chad? Can anybody keep pace with Liberty over the course of the next several weeks?
I think at the end of the day, Liberty will pull away here. I just want to note here, the only top 10 teams make the conference tournament now in this expanded A Sun. But Queens and Bellarmine are eligible to be among those 10. And the standings we're right now, they both would be in that conference tournament. We remember what happened last year when Bellarmine won this conference tournament. Ended up sending Jacksonville State as the regular season champions to the NCAA tournament.
Right. And, so I don't know. I like that those teams do get to participate. I think that they mean well, but for an under the radar conference, this one, not just this one, but any of them, your championship game is your showcase game. So when you look at this conference, when you look at the Ohio Valley, if you have a game that is meaningless, you really kind of sunk your showcase there.
Yep. Absolutely. If they're in the conference, if they're in D1 basketball, they should be eligible. I don't understand. I don't get the rule of sitting out how many ever years, 3 years. Like they're in Division 1 basketball. Let's play the tournament.
Yeah, the stated reason is that it gives them 4 years to get assimilated to D1, but we all know the real reason. It's to control the flow of teams moving up. That is the only reason, and everybody knows it. So let's not pretend that that's not what it is.
The game of the week upcoming schedule here in the Ace Sun. I don't think if you told me before the season, I would actually be saying this. It's tomorrow night, Kennesaw at Stetson. It's a first place battle. Liberty's got a pair of road games also. They got to go to both the Jacksonville schools, Jacksonville and North Florida. Not Jacksonville State, Jacksonville and North Florida.
Right. Yeah.
But let's keep going here, Griggs. Welcome back to the A10 and Under the Radar. You are still here.
Oh, man.
And, we were really liking what Dayton was starting to do, but then they lose the home game.
Wait, somebody voted for VCU?
VCU did get a top 25 vote in the AP poll. I'm going to pull up the VCU profile here because if you listen to VCU fans, they deserve to be in the tournament right now. I don't see it here at all. I don't think it's even close, but, the win at Dayton is nice.
The win at Dayton is good. It is something. I just don't. It is only a 68 team tournament. I actually that was impressive how they came back at Dayton. I will give them that. Do I think that profile puts them on the bubble? No, but maybe if they win out, they get a look. But I don't know. I've been saying all along that this is going to be a one bid league that there just aren't the opportunities to get anybody there, even if a team like VCU or Dayton is good. St. Louis, another team that can play at a high level. Because it was just so disappointing out of conference and nobody really picked up any wins. Like, look at this Dayton profile. They're still looking for their first win against a team that will make the NIT, I think.
Yeah.
So how do you select a team that doesn't beat an NIT team, much less an NCAA team? But I do want to say that, like, I think when these teams are capable of playing at a high level, and if one of them, I think it will only be one, but whoever it is that gets to the round of 64, if it's one of these two, I think they can win a game in the round of 64.
I will say this about VCU. If they literally win out, I mean, win all these games and pick up a win or two in the A10 tournament, I think they get a serious discussion. Because you will have the win at St. Louis. You'll have a sweep of St. Louis. You'll have a sweep of Dayton at that point. Yeah.
The win against Pitt looks better by the day.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. They'll get a look, but I just don't. There's not enough meat in the conference, which is crazy to say about the A10, but I agree. There's not enough great wins, solid wins there. You got to beat St. Louis and Dayton.
Yeah, and as a basketball fan, I love this league. It's other than the Big East, it's the most successful by far basketball centric conference. They don't play football. There's 7 conferences that don't. The A10 is one of them. VCU, great fans. Dayton, great fans. Or St. Louis, the Arch Baron Cup. You got a great rivalry between VCU and Richmond.
That's actually coming up Friday night. It's a VCU Richmond game also. So circle that one.
Yeah. St. Bonaventure, a fantastic fan base. Who doesn't love beer hat guy, whatever that guy? And you got Big Five in this conference, and you've got UMass, who, while it seems like ancient history now, at least has a history. Loyola, a recent Final Four and Sweet 16 team. Davidson's got his. This is a great conference. I mean, I could watch it all day long. I hate that it's on the Under the Radar show.
Yeah, like I said, VCU Richmond on Friday night. And Griggs, winner of that game, did they get one of these?
I think so, yeah. Oh, God. That's Charlotte's trophy, by the way. Another piece of the A10, the Charlotte Davidson third trophy game.
Charlotte's not in the A10 anymore.
Yeah, Charlotte isn't, but Davidson is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big Sky Conference, Dorman. I've been saying it for a couple of weeks now, and they just keep winning. Eastern Washington picks up the home sweep this week over Idaho and Montana. 6-0 in league now.
Starting to put some distance between them and the pack. And I think it's going to hold. I really do. I think Eastern Washington will win the regular season. Big Sky, just think the way they're playing ball. I do like Sacramento State. I've seen them a few times. They're talented. Their defense needs some work. If they can get some stops and learn how to play defense, they got a shot. But to me, this is Eastern Washington's conference in regular season and in March.
Yeah, I agree with you here. If we look up the upcoming schedule, they are. We need Stalika tonight because coming up tomorrow night, Thursday night, one of our favorite rivalries. It is the Nokohi Wu Cup.
Yeah. Yes.
As they will be at Northern Colorado. Then they go to Northern Arizona for the AEWU. I don't know if that.
I don't know. I don't know. Stalika, all these made up rivalries, Stalika came up with just about all of them.
Griggs
is another one.
Griggs over in the Big South Conference, Longwood is on the screen. Yeah, it is on the screen there. They did get the win. They had a tough battle tonight against Gardner Webb, but picked up the win. In first place tied now with Asheville. Asheville as well.
Well, Asheville had the big win after we went off the air last night. I don't think it had gone final when we were recording last. No, it was the night after. It was Thursday night. Asheville got the big win against Longwood. So I thought it was a one-horse race. It is not. Asheville right in there with them.
Yeah, Radford won't go away either.
Yeah.
Yeah, Radford right there. They picked up a win at Campbell tonight, so it could even be a 3-horse race here.
Yeah, when you look at the profiles, when you look at the metrics, all of a sudden I don't want to say. I mean, up until last week, I just thought it was Longwood and Friends. And you look at Asheville, and you're like, well, first of all, they beat Longwood, so it's hard to not think of them as being able to be as good. But you look at the metrics, you look at everything, they're as good as Longwood is all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Longwood's got to go on the road this week, albeit to Presbyterian, but Asheville gets a pair of home games. Radford also with at least one home game in there, I see, against High Point. So, you know, it, you know, this could be a chance for, Asheville to keep piling up these wins here. And who knows? I think you're right, though. I think that we may have given this conference to Longwood a little bit too early this season.
Yeah.
I think it could still be wide open.
If by November you consider that a little too early, well, yeah, that's when I started thinking that it was Longwood and company.
Dorman, over in the Big West Conference, talk about another conference with a logjam of top 4 teams with only 1 loss, a 5th team in UC Davis with only 2 losses. We saw just the other night, Santa Barbara went into Irvine and picked up a huge road win there. We got UC Riverside just piling up the wins as well. This conference looks like it's going to be fun the rest of the way too.
A lot of fun, Chad. I totally agree with you. A lot of good teams, a lot of really good coaches. Hawaii, one you didn't mention there, is playing really good basketball. If you caught them in the Diamond Head Classic, and they're taking their show on the road and been winning. Really, this is no fluke. These 4 or 5 teams, if you want to give Davis, but my 4 with Irvine, Hawaii, Barbara, and Riverside are really talented, really good. I'm really excited as we go down the stretch with those 4. It's going to be really good basketball.
Yeah, Chad, I'm going to have you pull up a profile here. Santa Barbara.
Okay, I was just gonna say before we do that, don't completely overlook Davis here. They picked up a nice win over Cal State Fullerton, and Fullerton was kind of looking like the 4th or 5th team until this past week. So let's pull up UCSB here.
Yeah,
who I do think agree with you is the best team in this conference. But go ahead.
Yeah, and they do have the loss at home to Riverside. I know you just got done praising them, and it wasn't even a close game. It was I don't know what happened to them, but like the 14-3
it was
record,
it was a 1-point game to Riverside.
Oh, what? Huh. Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so
I think that's a close game. I don't know how close you get to that, Griggs.
Yeah, so they had the 1-point loss, but it was at home, and it was a bit of a surprise. But the Eaters, a good team, they went in there, and they didn't have to sweat that much. It was close for a lot of the game, but like Santa Barbara made big plays in the final couple minutes after the last under 4 timeout. They've won at Pepperdine. They've won. I guess my question is, could it say they only lose 1 more the rest of the way? They go to Hawaii and lose because it's so hard to win out there.
Yeah.
This team getting any sort of a look. I mean, you're talking about a really big record.
I'm going to make you guaranteed for you here, Griggs. If they only lose 1 more game the rest of the way, it's the game at Hawaii on January 26th, they're going to be in the NCAA tournament because they're going to be Big West tournament champions.
Well, okay, 1 win.
Because that's the only way they're getting. That's the only way they're getting in my opinion.
Okay.
I think they'd be on the board. I think they'd get some consideration. There'd be some good wins. This conference is not bad. They'd have Irvine wins. They'd have.
The other thing is, this team is 6-2 on the road. I mean, they haven't just done it at home.
If the only thing they do is they lose at Hawaii, they're going to only have 1 win in the top 2 tiers because the only other tier 2 game they have left is the game at Hawaii. So it's hard for me to see that. It really is.
The non-conference schedule strength is not good.
342 is pathetic.
And
they lost a bad game to Northern Arizona.
They lost that way. I just think it's one of those cases where you look, and we do this every year, and oftentimes it's a Big West team in this discussion where you look at the 12 or the 13 line, and if you're the 4 or the 5 that's matched up against them, you're thinking, damn, I'd rather play these teams on the 9 or the 10 line. The Gauchos can play.
Some really interesting games coming up this week. Riverside's at Davis, Hawaii's at Irvine.
That's a good one.
So a lot of good games to circle here in this conference this week.
Long Beach State, I'm still very disappointed in them.
Yeah, they've been kind of disappointing, but hey, they'll have a shot in the conference tournament at least.
You don't want Beach to get that bid. You want it to be the Gauchos.
Let's ignore that team in first place because they are clearly above the radar. The rest of the league, though, here in the Colonial, below Charleston, I think the story was UNC Wilmington coming off of their loss to Charleston, Dorman, over the weekend. at home hosting William and Mary and just laying an egg.
I think, yeah, I think it was a huge hangover. That was such a big game Wilmington had, and they had it in their hand. They could have knocked off Charleston. The place was absolutely bonkers. The arena was rocking. It was great college basketball.
It
And
was.
I think it just sunk in, and they lost. And a couple of days later, you got it. They're young kids. They're 18 to 21-year-old kids, and you just can't get up for 30 games a year. And when you have everything on the line and the national attention with College of Charleston and a ranked opponent, I think they just didn't have the energy that one day. But I really do. I think Wilmington is very good, and I think they're really better than the rest of this conference. Maybe besides Townsend, I'm still holding out Townsend, my early pick, that is still going to make some noise here. But yeah, I give that loss to William and Mary because of the letdown.
Yeah, Townsend did have a pretty impressive game Monday night, actually, over Hofstra, who was right up there
Yeah,
with them, completely crushed them. Wilmington on Monday night actually struggled with last place Elon, though, so that was
Yeah.
even though they did win the game, but
Hofstra and Townsend and Wilmington all have high ceilings, but they've shown a propensity to go through a week or a two stretch where they just absolutely look like crap. But Townsend can be dangerous. So can Hofstra, and so can Wilmington, even
Wilmington
though
with
they
an
haven't shown it. Yeah.
Wilmington with an interesting week. They've got to go to Hofstra and to Stony Brook this week, so this is a big pair of road games for them if they want to, at least keep in line for the number 2 seed in this conference tournament.
Right.
Briggs, over in Conference USA, again, we're not going to be discussing that first place team there, but who has now swept North Texas on the season, if I'm correct. But
Yeah.
North Texas is still a pretty darn good team, and I think maybe they'll pull the profile up on.
Yeah, outside of the 2 losses to FAU, they only have 2 more losses total. You kind of hate that they didn't get the one of the Florida Atlantic games. One of the losses was a close game to the Wilmington team we just got done talking about. The win, the neutral floor win at Grand Canyon, or not at Grand Canyon, was fairly decent. I don't know if there's enough there, which again,
let me throw this out to you, because they've got the 2 games against UAB still left, as well as a home game against Charlotte. There are actually a pair of games against Charlotte as well. If they could sweep those 4 games, and that's a tall order, I think this team does get a look, unlike UC Santa Barbara, because there's a lot more quality wins they can pick up here than UCSB could.
UAB been a little bit disappointing away from home. If they go to UAB and win, that is a really good win, and they'll get credit for that. I don't know if it's enough credit to get them all the way in. But maybe it is because there's nothing really bad on this profile. It's just lacking a little bit of good.
Yeah, you even say, oh, they got tier 3 loss, but that tier 3 loss is that UNC Wilmington team that we were just discussing. So it's not really a bad loss there.
Not at all.
No, there's nothing bad on here at all. It was just, and had they won one of those games against FAU, I think we are talking about bubble or being able to reach it with a really strong finish. UAB, I just think that there's the loss at FIU in particular, the loss at home to Western Kentucky. They have basically, I think UAB is potentially very dangerous, but one of their wins will have to be that last CUSA tournament game.
Fair enough. Here's the upcoming schedule. We saw some of the games there already, but the North Texas is going to be hosting Rice, and then the big game Saturday at UAB. Again, probably the game of the week in this conference.
Probably so.
That does not involve Florida Atlantic. Actually, Florida Atlantic a tough road test at UTEP, but that's semi on the radar, I guess.
Yeah.
Dorman, over in the Horizon League, we now another conference of the logjam. We have a 4-way tie. But are you with me on the Penguin bandwagon?
I'm a Penguin.
I want to get in the igloo. I want to get in the igloo, Chad. Like you said, Milwaukee's not bad. Cleveland State's starting to come on. I really do like the Northern Kentucky team. Youngstown State, they got a chance, Chad, but this isn't going to be easy. Coming up, I believe they got a big stretch coming up. If it's not this week, it's in next week. Their overall numbers
this week they're at Green Bay and at Milwaukee, they got the Wisconsin trip. So the Milwaukee game is a big one, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that winning that Milwaukee game would be huge. But the numbers are solid. The J&G 135 right there with Milwaukee 136. I think they have a chance, and I think you'll be a top 4 seed in the tournament in the horizon. That's big because you start to get those ladder buys. It'll be interesting. This is a strong conference at the top.
What a story. Youngstown State, no basketball history at all, at least none that I know of. A first place
I
team.
don't
This
believe
is
they've ever
fun.
made the NCAA tournament. So
I'm
No,
not
they have
even
not.
sure they've made the quarterfinals of the Horizon League tournament. They've done that, but I mean, not a whole lot of history of success there. It's just kind of fun to see them do well. Not the strongest schedule out there, 359 overall. That's pretty amazing.
I think we got to mention this Milwaukee team, though. I was just taking a double check here. It hasn't been since the 2015-16 season that this Milwaukee team had a winning record. They lost
A winning record.
had a
That's
winning overall
unbelievable.
record. They were
Wow.
10-22 last year. They were 10-12 the year before the COVID short year. 12-19, 9-20. This has been one of the worst teams in the conference for quite a while. It's a huge turnaround this season for this
Yeah.
program. So we've got to give them some props. They are hosting Robert Morris and then hosting Youngstown this week. The other game, definitely worth circling, is going to be Saturday. It's going to involve 2 of the worst teams in the conference, but it's Detroit Mercy at IUPUI. And of course, the reason worth circling it is Antoine Davis enters that game only 17 points behind Freeman Williams for second place all time in scoring. He's already the number one, has hit more 3-pointers than anybody in college basketball history. Whether or not he can get another 430 some odd points and catch Pete Maravich for first place all time is probably not going to happen.
He might do that against
it's gonna-
IUPUI. Have you seen their defense?
Yeah. He might get, if he gets 80 points this week, it's possible. Who knows?
Yeah.
So we'll be tracking that the rest of the season, definitely, though. Griggs, the Ivy League.
Yeah, I still really like this Cornell team. It's so much fun to watch a team with like a high-powered, high-tempo offense.
102 points Monday night.
Yeah,
From an Ivy League team.
from an Ivy
94
League
on
team.
Friday night.
Just such a contrast, not from the rest of the schools in the league and everything that you sort of associate with the Ivy League. And it's just fun basketball to turn it on as a fan. Cornell has suddenly become destination programming for me just because of the drastic contrast in styles with them and literally everyone else. Princeton right there with them. I still think Harvard can be good, although they've been kind of disappointing. But I think you like Princeton, Chad. I think everybody but
I
me
kind of like
likes
Penn
Princeton.
coming.
I like Cornell.
I liked Penn heading into the season, and that's completely gone. They lose it. They lose a game at Dartmouth on Saturday, then they lose their home game against Princeton, and they're in a hole they may not be able to get out of. Only the top 4 teams make the Ivy League tournament here.
Right, which makes every game big. This game for Harvard is huge on Saturday.
Saturday, they're hosting Cornell. Princeton's going to be hosting Dartmouth. Or Dartmouth is surprising 3-2 off of that win over Penn. Penn stepping out of conference Monday night also. Game at Hartford.
Going to Hartford. Well, good for them.
Wow. Yeah.
So congrats to Hartford for getting a rare home game in. We'll get to them at the end when we move to the Independence. Dorman, the Metro Atlantic. When we saw Iona lose a couple weeks ago, it was like, okay, that's their one fluke loss. Then they do it at home on Sunday against Rider, and I don't know what to think at this point.
I'm starting to think they're not that good, which is surprising.
I think you're right.
Because I thought they were going to roll over this conference. I thought maybe, I just really thought it was theirs and they were going to take hold of it all season long. But when I see it, just doesn't seem to be working right. The offense looks sloppy. A lot of poor shot selection isn't great. Defensive breakdowns is surprising for Patino's type teams. And Sienna's been good. They've been good early in the non-conference. We saw them down there at Disney World and hitting shots. And I think Sienna's here for the game.
But Sienna went to Canisius on Sunday and came out with an L, their first conference loss of the season, which leads me back to the team that we liked early in. They were the last one of the last maybe dozen or so undefeated teams in the nation, I think. And now they picked up a 2-0 week. Griggs, this Quinnipiac Bobcats team. Yeah, I'm paying a little attention now.
Well, it's kind of hard to not pay attention to them because the idea that they were beating anybody, I know that they had a very weak schedule, but again, not somebody that has a history of being in the top half of this league, much less the top of it. But yeah, I mean, we're 8 games in and they're looking pretty good.
They're going to be hosting. I guess it looks like they just have the one game against Canisius on Sunday. Big game though Friday night. It's a huge rivalry. Maybe
I
a little bit of
wish.
steam take it out of it this year with everything that happened off the court with Manhattan. But I own at Manhattan Friday night's the game to watch in this conference, I think.
Yeah, given everything that happened at Manhattan, I can't believe they've won the 6 games.
You stole my. I totally agree. I thought Manhattan was going to struggle to win 3 or 4 games all year. You lose the coach, then everyone decides they're out of there 2 days later. The staff and the program has done actually a nice job holding down everything that was there, getting them to play. They play with good intensity. I give them a lot of credit for where they are today.
I wouldn't be shocked if they win Friday night. The way Ione has been playing, also.
Yeah,
This being a rivalry game, that's being on the home game for them. Why not?
right. God, I just wish that I was excited all summer because we were going to have Manhattan and Iona back where it belonged.
Griggs, while it was only against Ohio and Eastern Michigan, 2 of the bottom teams in the conference, and neither one was a huge blowout. Kent State just keeps winning basketball games in the Mid-America.
They do. They've cracked the top 40 of the net. The voters, or at least the AP voters, are starting to take notice.
A little bit.
A little bit. Well,
yeah,
up to 36. So we're kind of getting there. The more and more I think about it, I think they're going to hit a landmine. Just law of averages, how hard it is to win on the road in this conference. But they've, I was going to say we're going to pull up their profile here and just the next 2, 3, 4 are winnable. But that first game, that first wagon wheel game, is going to be really hard to win. And then they enter a stretch to where they've got. I believe if I'm counting right, in a 7-game stretch, 5 of them are on the road.
Well,
And
Dorman, let me throw a question for you about this team. Let's say they win all these games on the screen, and they lose in their conference tournament. I get it. They maybe one tier 2 game there, that game in Akron, and everything else is going to be tier 3 and tier 4. Circus is probably going to 150s. But you've only lost 3 games, and they were at Houston, at Gonzaga, and at Charleston, and they were all
That's
close
exactly
games.
what I was going to say. Those 3 losses are really good. If I'm the committee, I'm voting them in. If they're going to run through this MAC, who I think is better than it has been in years past, those 3 losses all on the road, Houston, Gonzaga, Charleston, they're in.
they should be.
I really believe it.
Yeah. I hope that the committee continues because it is a little bit new. You kind of got the sense that they might not peel the onion back as much as they have in the last couple of years. But that is incredible. If they win out, they should go in on the first ballot.
I would tell the committee.
Agree.
I would tell the committee not to watch any of their wins. I would tell the committee to watch that game they played in Houston and tell me this team does not belong in.
Yeah.
Right.
Gonzaga,
even though they lost it.
Yeah.
They should have beaten Houston, ironically.
With a minute to go, they were ahead. They had a lead with a minute to go.
Yeah.
They
the
will
problem
be
is it's so hard to run through your conference without losing. That's why I hate to say they have to win every single one of them. It's so hard, especially going on the road to your bitter rivals. And I think this team deserves a bid. They should get a bid, win or lose their conference tournament.
Right. Well, let's see how the rest of the regular season plays off. They lose 5 games the rest of the way. It's a different story, obviously.
Right.
But they're hosting Ball State, a Ball State team that is sitting there with only 1 conference loss. That this could be an interesting game Friday night, even though it's a home game for them.
Yeah,
and then
I think they
Illinois.
get it at home. When they go to Ball State, that's going to be rough.
Could be tough at
Akron.
Yeah,
it could be tough at Northern Illinois just because of that court with the dark court with the eyes.
Hate that. The committee shouldn't watch that game because of the court with the eyes.
Who am I up to? Dorman, I think I'm up to you here in the
Oh
MEAC,
Lord, what happened?
what a
Oh,
surprise. Norfolk State, who we thought was going to run away with this league at home,
Yeah.
loses a game to Howard, a team that I was the only person that believed in it before this game happened. So I give myself a little pat on the back here.
You should. I didn't see that coming at all. I still like the Norfolk State team. Morgan State off to a great start, and I believe they won earlier tonight too.
Be
They
hard for a non-conference, yeah.
Okay, thank you. If I'm still picking, I'm picking Norfolk State. I think they got the best team in the conference.
All right, yeah. I mean, if I'm Howard, I would have rather been them in the conference tournament than beat them
Yep.
on a road game. But they
Yes,
did.
sir.
Interestingly, Howard now has the other first place team coming up this week as they'll be hosting Morgan State, and then followed up by Monday night, Norfolk State and Morgan State. So maybe a few games worth circling here in the league this
yeah.
week.
Yep.
Also keeping an eye on Delaware State here. They are one of only a couple teams left without a D1 win yet, and they've got to go on the compare road games this week. Although one of them at South Carolina State might be a shot to get a win there.
Winnable. That game has huge centenary implications.
Let's jump over to the Northeast Conference, Griggs, where congrats to Fairleigh Dickinson. This was our highlighted conference last week. We were talking about all the postseason eligible teams were 300 or worse than the net. FDU keeps winning. They're up to 275, so they've cracked the top.
Yeah, I
300.
mean, really climbing the ladder, climbing the seed list, approaching the bubble.
Hey, I win at Stonehill. Stonehill had the best net heading into that game in the
Yeah.
conference, so that was a nice win.
I'll let you say it, Chad, because it was a little bit disappointing. One of our favorite, not under the radar rivalries, but rivalries period, was attended by about 13 people.
I turned out a little bit. There was a lot of games on Monday night that were worth watching, but I watched a little bit of this SFBK at LIU game, and I think the students weren't quite back yet, but there was about 10 people at the game, and this is the Battle of Brooklyn. This is one of the classic rivalries in college basketball dating back over 100 years. Where were you? Not only where were you LIU fans, where were you SFBK fans? It's right across the street practically.
Right. And normally this game rocks. It's a hidden gem and most people don't know about it. But when people stumble across it, they're like, oh my God, what is this? Not last night.
And I get LIU, another team without a D1 win, and that might be a factor in all of this here. That they've been pretty bad so far this year. The Battle of St. Francis is coming up on Friday. Also, Fairleigh Dickinson hosting Sacred Heart, and then Stonehill. They get Stonehill back-to-back weeks. It looks like, but that's the upcoming schedule. Dorman, over in the Ohio Valley Conference, SIU Edwardsville picks up a few more wins this week.
Yeah, they did. This conference is always tough for me to figure out this year. I think someone's going to get going, and then they fall on their face. Southeast Missouri State has looked good at times, and then they fall out. Eastern Illinois, I want to keep getting back in. I want to think that Iowa was something they were building on, but then they fall flat on their face. This conference is up for grabs, in my opinion. I do think Edwardsville is probably the best team. Yeah, Edwardsville is probably the best team, but not playing great.
Yeah, I think there's one decent team in this conference and 9 others.
There's plenty of time for everyone else to get back into this conference. Remember, the top 2 seeds do get a bye to the semifinals when we get to conference tournament time. So Edwardsville definitely wants to finish up there. They are going to be hosting Moorhead tomorrow night and then Southern Indiana on Saturday. So basically, those 2 teams have played so far this season. I expect them to be 7-1 by next week's show.
Yeah, Southern Indiana hosting the tournament and eligible to be in it, despite not being eligible for the NCAA tournament. That creates a bit of an interesting storyline. And again, is the OVC going to have its showcase game of the year, or showcase event of the year, not just in basketball, but as a conference, totally shipwrecked?
So, Griggs, let me get this straight. Southern Illinois is in the championship game against Edwardsville. The game's going to be in Southern Indiana. The place is going to be jammed, rocking. Southern Indiana pulls off the upset, and they're not going to the tournament.
Correct. Edwardsville is.
How does that doesn't look good?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though. I just got because we saw this last year in the ASUN with Bellarmine in the championship game.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great game. I thought it was
It
really
was,
exciting
but
for those
I don't
Bellarmine
think-
kids the way they celebrated because that was their national championship. That's all they had.
It was, but I think to the casual viewer that likes watching conference tournaments because they're tied into the NCAA tournament is not going to watch a game like that. We will, but
Or they may not even realize that Bellarmine or Southern Indiana in this case is ineligible, so they may watch
well,
that.
true, yeah.
But we know.
We do know.
Yeah.
Like Greg's over in the Patriot League. Colgate had a tough game tonight at Holy Cross, but did pick up the win. Now 7-0, still undefeated in conference play.
Yeah, I was a little surprised how badly they struggled at Holy Cross, but they really sweat. But again, whenever you go on the road, it's tough. Starting to pull away from the rest of the league. Other teams have looked good. Army's looked really good at times. They've been fun to watch, but I just think Colgate is collectively and consistently the best team, and I think we've thought that since November.
Yeah. I think in non-conference play we were starting to look at a couple other teams like American, but once we got to conference play, I think Colgate's just putting their foot down on this league. Quite honestly, at this point,
Yeah,
they are hosting American and not BU this week, so it should be 9-0 over next week's show. Dorman over in the SoCon. Does the score show up there on the screen? I think it did. Yes, Furman did pick up the win tonight at Chattanooga.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a tough game then, but that was a big win for them. But still, everybody's still trailing the Samford. Get that win Saturday over Chattanooga. Won at East Tennessee State tonight. I mean, it's not easy to go to Johnson City and win a game, even though ETSU is down a bit this year. How about the Samford team?
I'm impressed. I'm impressed every time I watch them. I think they're strong. I love their defense. I think this is a conference that I'm not going to say is wide open. I like Samford. I think they're stronger than the rest, and I think this is their conference this year.
And I don't think this is. I mean, we were looking at Furman, maybe Chattanooga heading into the season. This Sanford team,
yeah,
really
a lot
came
of
out of nowhere.
a lot of the traditionally good teams having down years this year.
Yeah.
One of the Chad again. One of the great rivalries in college basketball, and I am serious. It never means anything on paper, but if you want to be entertained, Citadel VMI.
That's a great game. They're normally battling for last place in this conference, but it's still that'll be a fun one to
there
watch.
Is something about it because neither team has ever really gone anywhere, so their season is about beating each other, and God, they go at it.
Citadel has never made the NCAA tournament, and VMI I think has one appearance. The other game we're circling next Wednesday night, a week away still, but Samford is going to be at Furman, so that is a big game for Samford after they play Western Carolina over the weekend.
That's one of the few spots they could actually get tripped up this year, Samford.
Who am I up to? Griggs, let me go to you here for the Southland Conference, where Texas A&M Corpus Christi, kind of a surprise loss last Thursday at home to get Southeastern Louisiana. Now we got a two-way tie with the two of them.
Yeah, I was surprised because I thought Corpus Christi was going to start to sort of run away from the league. Northwestern State was the story out of conference. Their win at TCU, and I think they had a win over Southern Miss as well. But
they are now,
come back down to earth and then started digging and went under the earth once we got in the conference play. I still like TAMU CC to win the league, even though they lost at home to Sela.
Yeah, I think they probably will end up being the best team in the conference at the end of the day. They are at Lamar and at Houston Christian this week. Well, Southeastern's got a pair of home games against Northwestern State and Commerce. So, hey, with Corpus Christi having gone on the road, I wouldn't be surprised if Southeastern Louisiana is in sole position of first place next week. So,
right, maybe so, yeah.
Now I think at the end of the day I'll come back around, but just where we are right now.
Yeah.
Dorman, over in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Southern is 5-0. I guess that's where we start, huh?
That was your team before the season started, Chad. I got to give you props.
Was it? I don't remember that.
Yeah, the Jaguars playing good basketball. Out of conference, it was a rough go, but usually SWAC teams have that out of conference uphill battle. But since conference play is they are absolutely perfect. Elkhorn State. I truly believe, not just because they're right under them in the standings, but Elkhorn State to me is their true competition this year. Southern and Elkhorn are probably the best two teams in this conference as it sits today.
I would don't forget about Texas Southern at the bottom of the standings. And I'm just saying, don't forget about one of their best players, Jordan Nicholas, was out for a while. He is back as of their last game, which they won Monday night over Jackson State. It'll be a close one. Now they got to even make the top 8 to even qualify for the conference tournament. Right now, that's going to be a lot of work, but there is plenty of time left for Texas Southern. So I would not count out Johnny Jones's team ever here in this conference.
Yeah, I still like Grambling, but it's more of a sentimental pick than a logical one. I would just love to see them win this league.
Southern's got to go to Pine Bluff and Mississippi Valley, so give them a couple. Pine Bluff's actually been a little not been bad this year.
Yeah, but Pine Bluff is normally centenary level, not having a bad year at all.
No, and we'll give a shout out to the Tire League when Florida A&M picked up a win over Mississippi Valley the other night. Everybody has a D1 win, and we normally go into February with somebody winless against D1 in this conference. So another shout out there for this conference. Has a good shot to avoid the Centenary Award. Not quite there yet, but has a shot at it at least. Over in the Summit League, Griggs, how about this Oral Roberts team?
Well,
a pair of home wins this week. Very impressive.
Yeah, and establishing themselves as the flagship team in this conference, at least for this year. Nobody else is really close to them. And I realize that they're, eating up on a lot of cupcakes, but they're fun to watch. They shoot a lot of threes.
Let me throw this at you though, Griggs. They only have 4 losses. They were all tier 1A losses. 3 out of 4 NCAA tournament teams. Utah State's a bit of a fraud there, I think, at 35.
And they were in that New Mexico game. That was
I know
they lost the game.
And then
was that the night of the I wasn't watching TCU. Oh, go ahead.
But let me throw in the other thing here. Non-conference strength of schedule, 6th in the nation. They scheduled well. So if they run through this league, I don't think they get in, but because there's just so much lack in the top 3 tiers. But how much consideration do they get?
Maybe more of a Rocco or Titel question than for me, but I would like to think that they would get a lot. I mean, they've impressed upon us that they understand, or at least Tom Burnett did, who's not on the committee anymore, how hard it is to win in conference. And I think that when you look at where the under the radar teams of the past 2 years were seated, and some that got selected and some that got inside the bubble and some got way inside the bubble. I'm thinking particularly of Murray and Belmont the year they got a bid. They do look at it, and neither one of those teams really played in conferences that were exceptionally strong. But I don't know if they're going to do that this year because there's a bit of a new makeup. But they did everything. They scheduled hard, and they won their conference games.
Go up there at the top of the tab. There's a tab up there where we had a chance to talk to Chris Reynolds, who is the selection committee chair this year. We talked to him before the start of the season, and I think he kind of echoed some of those thoughts as well. So
I would like to see them be considered. We do our mock committee. And I would be like, look, it's not easy to go to South Dakota State and win. It's not easy to go to these places.
I don't think that argument's going to pass very much muster this year, quite honestly, Griggs. I think it's more of, how they intend to schedule argument for me. But sorry.
Can you pull up Kent State there on the right next to Oral Roberts? This is an interesting
I think Kent State's a better team than Oral Roberts.
I agree with you, Griggs. I agree with you. I just love what these teams did and scheduled out of conference. I understand they lost most of them and they were tight, but I just love to see the scheduling, the challenging yourself. See if your team is that good. And in some of these cases, like we pointed out already, they were there. They were game in a lot of these big game showdowns. And I just give the coaches a lot of respect for doing what they did, and they got good basketball teams, and I hope they make the tournament.
Right. I know this is going back before COVID, but how many years, year after year after year, if Oral Roberts can just avoid the Leathernecks in the quarterfinals.
Oral Roberts this week is in North Dakota, at North Dakota State, and then at North Dakota. So it's a pair of road games. North Dakota State, tough. That game should be tough. I don't know about playing North Dakota, but North Dakota State should be tough game Thursday night. Definitely one worth keeping an eye on. In fact, tomorrow night. Dorman, over in the Sun Belt Conference, there's a lot we could break down this league as. Here we go, 6 teams with 2 losses. We go 9 deep within a game. If we go within 2 games of each other, we have everyone but Arkansas State. I mean, this is
So this is typical Sun Belt, by the way, if you're new to the program. This
This
is
is
Sun
even
Belt
beyond
year
typical
after
Sun
year
Belt.
after year.
But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
But your thoughts on
Those
the league
top
right
4, I really like these top 4 teams. Troy, maybe not as much as the
now?
others,
Yeah.
but Marshall, Southern Miss, and Louisiana are very good basketball teams. I could see any of the 3 of them winning it. And there's going to be upsets here coming in this conference tournament, just because I think the overall talent is there in the middle also. This is going to be a fascinating finish to the season and see what happens in this conference tournament, because no one here is lined up for no one lined up here for a bid if they can't win the conference tournament. So this is going to be an absolute battle when they get to the conference tournament here.
Well, I'm going to pull up Marshall and Southern Miss. If somebody can get one, these are the 2 teams, but Marshall already has 3 bad losses there.
Those 3
That's
Southern-
just it, Chad.
Southern
I
Miss a couple
think,
bad losses, and that loss at not being able to pick up that huge win at Marshall a week ago. In fact, getting blown out in that game, that could have made Southern Miss interesting if they'd won that game.
Yeah, there's that one, and it's just I think these resumes are board worthy if they can, blow through the rest of their schedules, or if not win out, come close to it. But the problem is when you put this next to Kent State and you put this next to anybody else that's on the bubble, Marshall, none of them will have bad losses like Marshall does.
Yeah.
So that is that's working against them so much.
It's a killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I like this James Madison team. They're not even in that first place group. They're in the second place group. But
Yeah,
that's a
JMU's
team,
fun. They're dangerous.
They slipped up a few times in early in conference play, but if they can get things going, huge game. They are at Southern Miss on Saturday. One definitely worth circling in this league. The rest of the games there on the screen as well. Chicago State at Coastal Carolina Monday night. That's what Griggs is going to be watching.
Yeah, I'll be watching that. Rocco Miller going to be at that game.
Yeah, I think he will be. Griggs, the Western Athletic Conference, maybe not.
Yeah.
Let's try again. The Western Athletic Conference, there it is. And the story in this league is Seattle.
Yeah.
Who went to Utah Valley on Saturday and got the huge road win. I'm all on board.
That was
with
a
the Seattle
great
team.
game.
Forget about Utah Valley. Forget Sam Houston. Forget State of Boston. I'm all in on Seattle right now.
Well, Seattle was picked, was it 5th or like the preseason rankings in the WAC made no sense. Seattle returned all their key players. They had a really good year last year. Why wouldn't you pick them 1? That's who we picked. And I loved this Utah Valley team. I mean, really liked how they were playing. So for Seattle to go in there and get Utah Valley the way that they did, yeah, they're good. Sam Houston is a good defensive team, an outstanding defensive team, actually. But they can't always score, and they've lost some games. They've won some games that are really big. Like, I want to say they won at Oklahoma and Utah, but they've lost some that are head scratchers. So they just go through long stretches where they just can't get their offense going.
I want to start. Look at this tempo column here. You love to see a number 1 anywhere. UTRGV, number 1 tempo in the nation. Fun team to watch, at least. They don't win many games, but although 10-8 overall is on the season this year, but not so good so far.
This conference is fun to watch. This is good basketball. Great. It is fun.
Yeah,
how about
this? So much better recently.
Yeah, how about the basement being up in the attic, or the attic down in the basement? New Mexico State 0-6.
Unbelievable.
And only 12 teams allowed into the WAC tournament. Tarleton and Utah Tech are both going to be allowed to play, so somebody's not going to make it. Would you ever believe me if I told you at the beginning of the season that New Mexico State would not even qualify because of record for the WAC tournament when we were picking? A lot of people were picking them to win the league.
And New Mexico State historically, at least like for the last decade or so, 25 plus wins a season. So to see them in the shape that they're in, and I realize that there is a very big mitigating circumstance as to why we're not going to talk about it tonight, but that's just nuts.
A couple of good games to keep an eye on here. Kind of on Saturday, you've got Southern Utah at Seattle, but the big game I think is tomorrow night, Griggs. It's Stephen F. Austin at Sam Houston, one of the great rivalries out there.
Yeah.
The Battle of the Piney Woods, right?
Yeah, Battle of the. But this one is pretty. This one has some heat to it. I'm so glad that they landed in the same conference because for a minute it looked like it was over.
Yeah, no, so it's great to see them play each other, and it's a game with meaning. Sam Houston,
Yeah, a lot.
not
of
among
meaning.
the first place tie, but with the best net in the conference. Stephen F. Austin among that, or among those times for teams tied for teams tied for second place, if I can get that out. Let's here we go. Two teams have been eliminated already, but we're still talking about them. Chicago State and Hartford, an 0-3 week for these two teams combined. Hartford, despite a D1 win, might still be in line for the Centenary Award if
Yeah.
the winless teams can pick up wins here.
Really,
they've got a pair of home games though against Penn and Stonehill coming up in the next week.
yeah. You kind of hate to see what has happened to Hartford, not just their basketball
but
program,
I
but their
got-
institution.
The thing we got to talk about here is Chicago State being an independent. This is what you do when you're an independent. Monday night, they're going to be at Coastal Carolina. That's in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Wednesday, they're going to be in Stanford.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a week.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a plane flight they're taking Tuesday. That's all I got to say.
The Horizon League or somebody, the Summit League. I would like to see somebody pick up Chicago State so they can get membership. It's a nice market, Chicago.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
let's run through some mythical conferences.
Okay.
How are things going to the Front Range? 2-way tie.
How about the Air Force Falcons? Look at that on top of the Front Range.
We gotta get Denver some games here. They haven't even played one yet.
Yeah.
Let's see if we're getting anything in here coming up this week. Colorado State at Wyoming, the real border war on Saturday.
Yeah, I know that one's that is a big rival.
That's
well,
a
all
very
these
intense
games
rivalry.
They used to play the Front Range round robin. I think they quit it once we started recognizing it. But it used to be like the Big Five. There's a banner out there somewhere.
How about the Back Range? This is not a real rivalry.
No, this isn't even a real mythical conference. This is just one we created.
Arizona currently in the lead, though. We got a couple teams that haven't even played a game yet. Do we have any Back Range games this week?
Let me see.
Not seeing it.
No.
I'm not seeing it. Yeah.
Let's Beehive Conference.
Yeah, I did want to say about the Beehive when I did my bracket, which I'm not trying to guess the committee. Utah State and Utah Valley and Utah were all hovering around the bubble. So how much fun would it be if the old
the old Ochre bucket? It's given to the Utah Beehive Conference champion.
It's missing.
We got to the wrong screen there. Yeah, but BYU currently with a half game lead over all those other schools.
Yeah,
haven't gotten Southern Utah game yet though.
Like for the popularity of the sport, we need the Beehive games back. We need the Front Range games back. We need teams to start playing their old rivals and regional opponents.
Yeah, I mean, again, no games even this week here in the conference.
Yeah.
So it's let's go to the screen that I was going to go to. That's our Hoops HT under the radar top 10. The three of us all submitted ballots. Our good friend Rocker Miller from Bracketier.org couldn't make it to the show tonight. He did send in a bracket as well. So the surprising teams on here, we could blame on him.
Yeah.
Honorable mentions, teams that did not quite make the top 10. St. Louis, VCU, pair of A10 teams. Sam Houston, Cornell, Liberty, and UNC Wilmington.
I'm glad my number one vote made it.
Me too.
Cornell?
I voted for the Northeast Conference.
At number 10, we had Southern Miss hanging out of the top 10 despite the loss this past week. And at number 9, another Southern team, Southern Illinois, they were part of our feature conference here at the start of the show. Just want to give a quick update on that. If I have a score update, it was Drake. Drake is currently in overtime.
Are they really?
This? Yeah.
Really?
Missouri State came all the way back in that game, forced overtime. So, 7th place, we have a tie between the Drake team I just mentioned and UC Santa Barbara, who we highlighted when we did the Big West Conference. 5th place tie between Marshall, the other team that we looked at out of the Sun Belt, and Dayton out of the A10. I believe ended up being our highest rated A10 team here.
Yeah.
Here we go. Now the top 4 here. Utah Valley, we just discussed them in the WAC, and even though they lost to Seattle, Seattle's on this list, somehow they still made it near the top of the standings. I didn't agree with that I think Rocco, we'll play Rocco for that one.
Yeah.
Third place, Oral Roberts. We just highlight how much we like them in the Summit League there.
Man, that's high. I voted for him, but that had to be Rocco.
So I have Oral Roberts number 2 overall, actually. So
Oh, okay, you did. Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
North Texas coming in at number 2 out of Conference USA, and number 1, and probably not a surprise given how much we discussed them tonight. Not only when we did their conference, but several other leagues. But
Kent State.
it's the Kent State Golden Flash is
Mhm.
number 1 under the radar team. I think there's a big gap from 1 to 2 right now. Quite
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
Well, I think the only way we get anybody that challenges Kent State for first place is if one of
Yeah.
Charleston or Florida Atlantic falls back under the radar at some
Oh
point.
yeah, if they fall out or if Kent State gets in.
Yeah.
36, they could move up pretty quick.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
On that note, let me go to both of you for any other final thoughts. And Dorman, let me start with you.
Since we're on our under the radar conferences, and I know we went through them at length earlier, there's just so many conferences with such great depth and talented teams that are going to make for a compelling March tournament. And the games before we get to March are going to be big because they're obviously, we all know seeding is in place. Some conferences give a double bye, a single bye.
Home court advantage, yeah.
Home court advantage. Some teams get exactly. Thank you, David. And to not have to play the day before or have to play a lesser or not as competitive game where you're not pushed in the second half is huge. The Big West, the Horizon, we went in depth on the Missouri Valley, the Sun Belt, and the WAC are goozing and oozing with 3, 4, 5 teams that are just great. Can't wait for the conference tournaments, but watch as they Jekyll and we go down the stretch here as these teams jockey for seeding.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. We went through these conferences. How many conferences we looked at, not just our feature conference in Missouri Valley that had these 5, 6, 7 teams all tied for first place. And we're in the middle of January here. There's still a lot of time, but we're gonna have a fun championship week. If it was next week, I'd be so excited right now.
Awesome.
Griggs, you want to finish the show off?
I guess one of my final thoughts is just how the norms have changed. Could you imagine if we had the norms of 10 or 15 years ago? And the one that jumps into my head is the Ohio Valley Conference. 10 or 15 years ago, at least at the under the radar level, you didn't have teams jumping from league to league to league. So, and you didn't have the transfer portal. So imagine if Belmont was still there, had Murray State not lost its top 11 players, and had Moorhead not lost a lot of key players to Power 5 schools. How good would that league be? And what would St. Peter's look like if we had the norms of 10 years ago where they didn't lose their top 6 players after going to an Elite 8? So I know Rocco's counterpoint to this would be, well, look at all the schools that were able to use the portal to build rosters, and he's right. So it is a give and take, but it just kind of that's just one league in particular that I've noticed that had the norms not been what they were 15 years ago, it would look a whole lot different today.
Great point.
Yeah. I guess on that note, I would finish this off here. I do want to give a shout out, maybe even a little bit of condolences to our friend John Sleek, who was not on tonight, because he took the 5-hour drive all the way to Chicago to watch his Xavier Musketeers, who are, as we record this, are losing at DePaul. I know that's not under the radar, but I know he's going to be watching this. Maybe even tonight on his way home, he'll be listening to the podcast. John, we're sorry that we know you much would rather watch what you watch tonight. You would definitely rather been here. So, but on that note, on behalf of David Griggs and David Dorman, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back in tomorrow night. I think we're doing a bracket rundown show.
We are.
Another Under the Radar next week. Talk to you again real soon.